Remember, this is TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7 on your radio. You can also follow our live stream on Facebook and on 3news.com. Up next is the big one. Welcome. Now, a large proportion of children in the savannah regions of Ghana continue to be engaged in labor at the expense of education. In the prelude to the 2018 International Child Labor Day, Peter Kwadato visited the northern region and reports children are engaged in varying forms of labor when they were supposed to be in school.
A Ghana Statistical Service survey published in April 2015 showed 1.9 million children between the ages of 5 to 17 are involved in child labor. 1.2 million of them are engaged in hazardous labor. 26.3% engage in economic activities while attending school, with 41.6% not going to school at all. Research also has found children in rural savannah areas than those in rural forest and coastal areas to be participating in economic activities. Unfortunately, as these children engage in hazardous work, they are exposed to workplace abuse. A drive-through part of the northern region confirmed the report. During school hours on Thursday and Friday, we encountered a number of children either working as heads boy or engaged in varying forms of labor. From Nawuli along the White Volta through Tamale, Yendi to Samboli on the Oti River, one can count a significant number of children in varied forms of labor on the field. The story wasn't any different in other parts of the northern region. Some of the children were easing away in the villages with no concern for school. This girl told us she dropped out of school at primary 5 on the instruction of her mother, but was unable to explain why. She and others who have never been to school now find solace in washing clothes in the Oti River all day. This boy leads his cattle to graze here on the Samboli RC Basic School compound at the time his peers were in class, and the National Youth Coordinator at the Ghana National Association of Teachers was worried.
The statistics we have from the Ghana Statistical Service indicate that out of every 5 children you see, 1 is into child labor. So if you have 5 children and 1 is into child labor, the question is, those that are in child labor today, in the 20 years to come, there will be no work for them.
The development is partially blamed on lack of teachers, infrastructure, and learning materials.
We don't have staff. We are insufficient to our classes. Some of the classes have to be combined. We pay to 1 teacher per 2 classes. Sometimes some classes have to be vacant for some time.
But the National Youth Coordinator at the NAT Secretariat, Thomas Musa, wants teachers to do more to reduce the trend and get children into the classrooms.
Even if the child wants to become a carpenter, let the child become architect so that they can give us quality service.
Thomas Musa appealed to duty bearers to act in the interest of children to save the future of the country.
We're fortunate to have in the studio tonight the Executive Director for Challenging Heights, James Kofi Annan, who has been doing quite a lot on child labor issues. Zanan, nice to have you in the studio. We've been at this since 2015, that these reports started coming out. You've been working in this area since then, but would you say anything has changed since then?
Unfortunately, not much has changed, and I'm so disappointed that we are back where we started, just the way the story started. Tomorrow is the World Day Against Child Labor, and as usual, there's going to be a big debate where the government officials, ministers, deputy ministers, chief directors are all going to give speeches, very long speeches, and after that we'll go back and then wait for the next World Day Against Child Labor while the children are rotting, are not in school, their futures are being wasted away. I'm so disappointed.
So what do you think the problem is? Because in the past, government has done quite a lot, including social intervention policies. A LEAP, for example, is supposed to help reduce poverty so that children who are affected by poverty can get the opportunity to leap out. But this is not happening. So do you put the problem squarely on the inability of governments to eradicate poverty, for example, or you say that there is more to it than just poverty?
Well, exactly what you have said. There's more to it than poverty. You know, the policy that we are having must be in sync. If you have a child labor unit that is sitting on its own, and you have
so you're saying that our policies are disjointed and they don't tackle the real issues of child labor.
You look at the child labor unit where they are seated and look at where LEAP is seated. You go to these programs, you go to these discussions, and you find child labor unit on its own there without the LEAP operators being there. So the discussions are different. But beyond that, we are looking at a situation where you are targeting vulnerable people. Those vulnerable people, of course, you could see vulnerable people who are also victims of child labor. But we are looking at children who are deprived not only of their education, but of their childhood, who are working. So you have to go beyond just vulnerability to tackle those who are actually being put to work. Take them out, put them in school, and give a special program for them.
But the question is how? I mean, what are the correct approaches to doing this? You've been at it all this while. Your work in the Volta Lake at rescuing children and all of those things, sometimes it ends up those who are rescued go back into the same crisis. So it means that we're just not figuring out the right approach.
For my program, no. If we rescue a child, the child will not go back. But look, let me tell you what happens in South Africa. In South Africa, once a child...
Is South Africa the benchmark?
Yes, my benchmark because it's Africa.
Is it the best practice?
It's the best practice.
I mean, South Africa is doing better than Ghana in terms of the economy. So the ability to perhaps tackle poverty could be better than
But Steve, you know, once a child is a victim of trafficking or child labor, that child automatically benefits from a cash transfer. In our case, what we are saying is that if this district doesn't have the cash transfer, in this case LEAP, then it means that any vulnerable child in that community or in that district doesn't benefit from it. But that should not be the case. What must be is that anyone who is vulnerable and who is a victim must be a target of the cash transfer, so that all those who have been victims who needs to go to school can go to school feeling that our government has a program to affect them. Failing that, what you are saying is that if the LEAP is in your district, but it's not in my district, then those children in my district are supposed to go rotten. That is a bad policy. And that's what we are saying, that make sure that this LEAP is targeted precisely well.
So we're talking about government interventions now, but let's look at our society.
Yes.
The structure of our society has been over the years being that children are able to parents are able to get their children to do bits and pieces of things to support the family unit. So do we say that the society at large is to blame for this?
Society has a role to play. You have a role to play. I have a role to play.
I mean, my children are not hawking on the street,
I know,
possibly because I could afford.
Because
but
you are
what
playing
about
your
those
role.
parents who cannot afford?
You are playing
affordability
your role.
Against playing your role
implement
as a parent.
Why did you roll out the law? Did you roll out the Children's Act just for the showcasing of it, or you rolled it out in order that when somebody goes against it, you punish the person? Because of impunity, a parent feels that I can give birth to as many children as I can, especially when you go to our rural areas. The men will give birth to many children and will not take care of them, and they go unpunished.
So if I understand you correctly, we shouldn't say society is at fault, but irresponsible members of the society, and that government must crack the whip hard on these ones.
Exactly. If somebody is being irresponsible, you have provided classroom, you have provided uniform, you have provided textbook. Somebody is supposed to provide food for the child to go to school, and the person is not doing that. What do? You have to crack the whip. You have to punish so that others who want to go the same way will feel that if I don't send my child to school, if I send my child to child labor situation, I will be punished.
Do you think that's the most effective way?
That is the most effective way. Look, you send one person to jail today in one community, you see that everyone would like to send their children.
Is that the way forward?
The way forward, that is the way forward. But also, the government officials who are mandated to do the work must take up that responsibility as if it's their own business to ensure that whatever laws or whatever policies, especially the National Plan of Action that has been enacted, get implemented. You don't just enact a National Plan of Action and put it in your shelf and worship it and dust it every year and tell us that this is our National Plan of Action. No way. It's a waste of taxpayers' money. It's a waste of our resources. You have done National Plan of Action, implement it, so that I know that when I pay my tax, for you to take that money to go and sit in Dodowa to discuss that policy.
And drink tea.
And drink tea, and Milo. You will come and implement it. Next time, I'll give you more money to go and drink tea.
Do you have hope for the Ghanaian child?
I wish I had better hope.
There's no hope at all?
I wish I had a better hope.
Right, Ms. Anna, we'll leave it here. I know that the issue of child rights will continue, and it's our wish that government will take keen interest in some of the suggestions that have come forward from groups like yourself. Executive Director of Challenging Heights, James Kofi Annan there. I'm Stephen Enti. This is News at 10. We'll be right back. Please stay. Welcome back. Now, the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC Ghana, has lauded President Akufo-Addo for the dismissal of the Managing Director of the Bulk Oil Storage and Transport Company, BOST, Alfred Obing-Boateng. COPEC Ghana believes the move proves President Akufo-Addo indeed has zero tolerance for corruption. President Akufo-Addo last Wednesday sacked 4 CEOs of some state institutions, including Alfred Obing-Boateng of BOST, who has been replaced by George Mensah Oakley. The BOST MD faced a series of accusations, including the alleged sale of some 5 million litres of contaminated fuel, which was unearthed by COPEC Ghana. Duncan Amoah is Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC, is joining us now. Mr. Amoah, thank you extremely for your time. So you feel vindicated after the president sacked the BOST, Alfred Obey. Can you tell me why?
Stephen, good evening to you. Good evening to your viewers. We don't feel vindicated, but it's more of Ghanaian feeling or heaving a huge sigh of relief. Indeed, it's just a little over a year since the appointment of Mr. Alfred Obeng to head the bulk oil storage and transportation. And already the series of scandals that has rocked the company quite demonstrate that he didn't have the sort of capacity needed to run that oil establishment. Indeed, we began last year with the news of some contaminated fuel, 5 million liters, which he decided, instead of blending to attain optimum profitability for both, at 4 cedis at the time per liter, he decided to go dump it on the market.
But Ms. Amoah, investigations were conducted into this contaminated fuel saga, and the BOST MD was actually exonerated. So it means that you were not satisfied with the outcome of that investigation, or whether indeed it was done at all or properly. Is that it?
Indeed, Steve. You would recall that that was not the only scandal that BOST has had to grapple or deal with over the past 1 year. Just 4 or 5 months after that dumping of some 5 million liters of contaminated fuel, you also find the BOST MD, the immediate past one, deciding to go to the market and sell our crude. Crude that at the time Ghana went to the market to buy, it was sold to us at plus $4.6. Mr. Obing-Boateng could only negotiate for -2. And in their own words, he should have negotiated for -5 and he got -2, so he even made profit. that clearly was bad enough. And we are quite happy that all of this didn't pass without the president taking his own notes, taking his own time to conduct some investigations. Today, he has given both a new lease of life with a new MD to steer the affairs of the company. And we believe that fuel traders, oil traders, major traders across the globe who have withdrawn from any business with Boss will return to Boss once the president has decided to clear the way for Boss to now move smoothly. Mr. Obem clearly didn't have much to add except one scandal after the other. And that is why we are commending the president for this move. We also believe that this sends a clear signal to other CEOs that are working, not to work for their own pockets of private gain, but to ensure that at all times the people of Ghana are put ahead. We give a thumbs up to the president.
And you also did mention that this actually suggests that the president is incorruptible. But is this not beyond the president as an individual?
Indeed. We have all along been wondering if indeed anybody was listening to all these issues that were coming up about Boss. Our key concern is to the extent that every Ghanaian buying fuel pays 3 to Boss. The Boss margin is on there. And so whilst we contribute money to the smooth operations of Boss, and then you find that the resources that we are always trying to provide for Boss is rather being dissipated anyhow, that will clearly be of concern to all of us.
Right.
And I can assure that we would help the new CEO, we would help the CEO at Ghana Gas, we will help CEO at TOR to deliver. But when there are challenges that we do not understand, which we think will come back to haunt all of us another day, another year, just like we have the TOR debt we have to pay for 14 years, we will not sit quietly, but we will raise alarm on these issues.
Duncan Amoah, we're grateful for your time. Duncan Amoah is Executive Secretary of COPEC Ghana. Let's move away from COPEC. President Akufo-Addo has charged members of the boards of the 3 developmental authorities to do all within their power to deal with the inequality and imbalances which have derailed efforts at promoting effective national development. Inaugurating board members of all the 3 developmental authorities under Zongo Development Fund, the president charged them to work within the limits of their budgets.
Do in the name of the Almighty God swear.
Do in the name of the Almighty God swear.
That I will at all times. Well and truly serve the Republic of Ghana.
Well and truly serve the Republic.
The 3 development authorities are tasked with the implementation of the Infrastructure for Poverty Eradication Program. The program will also be responsible for ensuring the effective disbursement of the equivalent of $1 million per constituency per year in fulfillment of President Akufo-Addo's 2016 campaign pledge. President Akufo-Addo said it is unfair that there are disparities when it comes to development in the country and urged the new board to introduce a new paradigm shift on how the country's capital expenditure is used.
You have to stay within those limits. You have to make sure that those limits are indeed limits, that you don't overrun the budget, because at the end of the day, the bigger the administrative cost of your work, the less opportunity there is for the investment in the development of your various regions. I'm very confident about the quality of people that have been assembled to assist in discharging this important initiative. It's new in the public space of our country. We had a limited version of it with the SADA. We have an opportunity to start off on a clean slate and build something that will inure to the benefit of the people of Ghana.
Chairman of the Coastal Development Belt, Edmond Annan, promised to deliver.
We see a new direction. You have set clear milestones. We will therefore apply the skills set for a patient and yet aggressive negotiator to navigate through the labyrinth of ministries, government and quasi-government institutions, traditional authorities, NGOs, the international community, leaders in communities, to enable us carry through successfully the mandate that you have given us.
And away from that, officials of the National Identification Authority, NIA, failed to show up at Parliament House today for the registration of the Ghana card. Though minority members of the House had planned a boycott of the process, the authority made all the necessary arrangements to commence the process for the lawmakers.
The National Identification Authority had indicated it was going to register MPs for the Ghana card beginning Monday, June 11. On Sunday, the minority in Parliament issued a statement saying they will not participate in the registration process, citing legal, procurement and cost concerns. The majority members of Parliament were, however, expected to take part in the process, but there was no show, as officials of the NIA failed to turn up for the exercise. It was 11 Monday morning here at the Parliament House, and there was no indication that the exercise would take place. The place is dead, just like any other Monday where there are no proceedings. We were told officers from the National Identification Authority were here on Friday to test their equipment, which our sources confirmed worked perfectly for a start on Monday. Surprisingly, not even a single member of Parliament was also available for the registration. Member of Parliament for Damongo, Adam Mutawakilu, from the minority side, who was here to do his administrative duties, said they will agree to take part in the process if only the NIA briefs Parliament.
They were to meet Parliament to brief us about their preparedness towards the registration. Okay. Even before we met them, we should come and register. When we have issues to raise, I don't think that is fair. They must have patience, meet us in Parliament, convince us as to what they are doing. Then you come and register.
Meanwhile, efforts to get officials of the National Identification Authority to answer why they failed to turn up has proved futile. Registration of the Ghana card was supposed to have started 2 weeks ago, and the Parliament House was part of the few institutions that was supposed to take part in the process. But due to some technical challenges, the process could not take place. Now, it is not clear the reason for which this time around it is not taking place, but probably it could be as a result of the fact that the minority side of Parliament is boycotting the process. For TV3, Kwabena Edu Jemfi. Parliament.
And that's how we wrap up with news at 10. Thank you very much for making time. On behalf of the crew, good night. There is more news at 3news.com.